Reporting from Quezon City, the big stories tonight. The military has launched a manhunt for the suspected Abu Sayyaf mastermind behind twin blasts in Sulu. The army wants the province under martial law. President Duterte is distancing himself from calls for a revolutionary government. This as Mr. Duterte stresses his pledge to work on cases against corruption in PhilHealth. And the PBA looks to restart its season with a safe bubble system. The military is now pointing at Abu Sayyaf leader Mundi Sawajan to be behind the twin blast that rocked Sulu on Monday. He was the target of 4 AFP intelligence officers that were killed by local police in Sulu last June. Ryan Ang with the story.
Philippine Army Chief Lieutenant General Cirilito Sobejana is recommending to place the entire Sulu province under martial law following the twin roadside blast in Jolo on Monday. According to Sobejana, enforcing martial law will help bring back normalcy to the area after 14 victims died following the attack of 2 suicide bombers in Barangay Walled City. His recommendation for martial law in Sulu will have to go through the military's chain of command and be endorsed by Defense Secretary Delfino Renzana before submitting it to President Duterte. Meanwhile, the Western Mindanao Command is now on a manhunt for Abu Sayyaf leader and bomb expert Mundi Sawadjaan, the same person behind the Jolo Cathedral and Indanan bombings. West Mincom Chief Major General Corleto Binluan said it was Sawadjaan's group that was under the monitoring of 4 AFP intelligence officers that were killed by local police in Sulu last June. For its part, the National Capital Region Police Office is ramping up its security measures in public places following Monday's twin blast. NCRPO Chief Debol Sinas ordered his district directors to tighten security around airports, seaports, train stations, malls, and other places of convergence.
After the bombing incident, we already alerted our different districts on the bombing incident and to monitor sa lugar kung meron bang galing ng sa hulog pumunta dito sa atin. We have also directed our intel community and our chief intel to coordinate with their counterparts in case may mga galing sa Mindanao pumasok dito.
Tightened security is also enforced in President Duterte's hometown, Davao City. Aside from the regular checkpoints, they also conduct random checkpoints and inspections. In Kalinan checkpoint, police ask motorists their origin and destination. Davao City Police Chief said, even if there is no alarming threat monitored, they should not be complacent.
Naglagay kami ng random checkpoint. Nagsimula ito kagabi. So, makaka-experience tayo ng mga inspection thoroughly at siyempre magkakaroon ng konting traffic.
House Deputy Speaker and Basilan Lone Representative Mujib Hataman notes that the twin blast in Sulu on Monday that has killed 14 individuals will put the anti-terrorism law to the test. Hataman hopes to see the measures work without any abuse or misuse, amid critics' concern on indiscriminate arrest and violation of human rights. For News 5, Ryan Ang, We Are One News.
Metro Manila and Davao City are ramping up their security measures following the twin blast in Sulu yesterday. Meanwhile, the Western Mindanao Command is embarking on its manhunt for the suspect, an Abu Sayyaf leader. Tightened security is now being enforced in President Duterte's hometown, Davao. Authorities are now conducting inspections at random checkpoints. The Davao City Police say there is no alarming threat monitored yet, but they did note that they should not be complacent. The NCRPO, meanwhile, says they have coordinated with their counterparts in Mindanao to monitor individuals leaving Jolo to head the nation's capital.
After the bombing incident, we already alerted our different district, kasi sa nangyari, hindi po naalarma rin kami noon. Ang daming casualties, and I think wala pa kaming report kung ano talaga nangyari. We have alerted our people, we have alerted the different district offices on the bombing incident and to monitor sa lugar kung meron bang galing ng sa hulog pumunta dito sa atin. We have also directed our intel community and our chief intel to coordinate with their counterparts in case may mga galing sa Mindanao pumasok dito.
U.S. Ambassador Song Kim took to Twitter to offer condolences to the victims' families in the Hulo blast. Kim also said the U.S. joins the Philippine government in condemning the attacks. Kim also assured the government of continued support to strengthen the country's national security. President Duterte wants no stone left unturned in weeding out corruption in government. This amid the multi-billion peso corruption storm PhilHealth is in. Maricel Halili with the report.
With state-run insurer PhilHealth under fire, no less than President Duterte himself vowed that officials involved in corruption in the agency will face prosecution. In a recorded public address on Tuesday, Duterte said he will personally endorse the cases to ensure trial for parties involved. PhilHealth is currently being investigated over an alleged mafia in the agency, which pocketed about 15 billion pesos.
One of the things that, few things that I can do in the remaining 2 years of my term, ubusin ko ito yung panahon ko to work on the cases for people who are involved in the PhilHealth.
The chief executive also ordered PhilHealth and other government agencies to publish all their financial transactions. Cabinet secretaries were also ordered to report the disbursements of funds related to COVID-19 response every 15 days or at the end of the month.
Lalo na itong PhilHealth, baski paperclip, i-publish ninyo at sino yung bidder na mag-supply ng paperclip, baski isa. Isabi mo dyan sa newspaper para mabasa.
To help address instances of corruption, Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez proposed to adopt some principles of the small wage subsidy program. These include the digitalization of all transactions and direct distribution of financial aid through banks or e-wallets.
Mahirap po gumawa ng kalokohan dito kung by computer. Nobody can keep the cash, so the intended beneficiaries, yung mga employees ng small companies ay tumanggap ng subsidy.
For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News.
During his state address, President Duterte also distanced himself from the calls of his supporters for a revolutionary government. Maricel Halili returns with this report.
The group Mayor Rodrigo Roa Duterte National Executive Coordinating Committee on Saturday called for a revolutionary government led by Duterte to usher in charter change. But the president insists he had nothing to do with this.
Wala akong pakialam niyan, wala akong kilala ng mga tao na yan. At hindi ko yan trabaho.
Vice President Leni Robredo also dismissed a call for a revolutionary government and said government should focus its efforts on its COVID-19 response. In a taped address, Robredo recommended some measures to help address the health crisis. Among them is a 5,000 peso cash aid for poorest of the poor sector of society to be distributed every month for 4 months. Robredo also said that if no one will take charge, the people will take their own steps and help each other to face this pandemic. But this comment does not sit well with the president.
Please do not add fuel to the fire. You will just destroy government. Huwag ninyong sirain ang gobyerno kasi masisira ang tao.
In a statement, Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Salvador Panelos said VP Leni just reiterated what the public already know about the difficulties brought by this pandemic. Panelo adds the Vice President appears to have mastered the art of appearing politically relevant while exhibiting her pretended concern. For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News.
Despite expressing support for the concept of a revolutionary government, Interior Undersecretary Pimaco Densing said such initiative will not fly at the moment. He said the timing is simply off. Speaking with the chiefs, Densing said mass support for the proposed RevGov is currently absent, and he said the government's focus is geared towards fighting the COVID pandemic. Despite this, Densing defended his colleague, DILG Undersecretary Martin Dino, who participated in the event calling for a change in government structure. He said Dino's affairs outside office hours are his own and do not constitute official functions. Meanwhile, Albay Representative Edsel Lagman urged the Justice Department to look into the proposal and its corresponding criminal repercussions.
I think the Department of Justice should make a thorough study on this issue and find out whether the facts and events surrounding this meeting and its objectives would constitute a violation of the revised penal code, like inciting to sedition.
More revelations earlier today during the House hearing on PhilHealth irregularities, among them the state insurance's illegal settlements, as well as secrecies in the administrative cases of their officials. Ria Fernandez with the details.
During the inquiry of the House Committee on Public Accounts, it was revealed that in 2011, PhilHealth demanded the Cardinal Santos Medical Center to pay 240 million pesos. This after their joint auditing discovered that the hospital overcharged its claims from the state insurer. Cardinal Santos only credited 3,000 pesos to its patients who were PhilHealth members, but it passed all the remaining balance in expenses to PhilHealth. What puzzled Deputy Speaker Dante Marcoleta is the fact that PhilHealth is still the one who paid the hospital in the end. According to the lawmaker, PhilHealth agreed to pay Cardinal Santos 70 million pesos following their arbitration in a Pasig court. The agency ended up losing a total of 170 million pesos. PhilHealth even sought the legal opinion of the Office of the Government Corporate Counsel for this.
Paano po ninyo i-account to the last centavo yung 170 million na pinayagan nyo mawala sa pondo ng PhilHealth? Ito po yung tanong eh. Kunwari dumaan kayo sa korte para sabihin niyo, oh, malinis ito kasi galing kami sa korte. Kunwari kumuha kayo ng opinion ng OGCC o para ngayon panindigan na, oh, kinoberap tayo ng OGCC. Legal tayo eh. Paano po maliligal?
Before this, lawmakers also learned about the 114 million pesos contributions of Accenture which were never received by PhilHealth but was encoded otherwise in the agency's IT system. Despite this, PhilHealth still agreed to a settlement. When NBI investigated this, authorities found that the money was diverted to multiple accounts in a bank in Batangas.
Would you know, attorney, to whom the money was deposited in Metrobank? Do you know the account name?
Your Honor, because of the prohibition under the bank secrecy law, I am not authorized to disclose in this session the names and account numbers of what we discovered.
Current PhilHealth officials believe PhilHealth settlements were illegal and baseless. They added that it was their former legal chief attorney Edgar Asuncion who gave a go signal for those. The House sent invitations to Asuncion several times, but the lawyer could not be located.
If no clarification is given us by Attorney Asuncion by Thursday, the next hearing, this committee will recommend the filing of plunder charges based on the documents submitted to us by PhilHealth Arbitration and PhilHealth Legal, and to file a case against Attorney Asuncion, Edgar Asuncion, the Hospital Managers, Inc., and the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Manila. So move, there being no objection, motion is carried.
In the same inquiry, Civil Service Commissioner Eileen Lizada revealed to House lawmakers that she was told by their leadership not to share details with lawmakers about the administrative cases of PhilHealth officials.
Meron po bang move sa loob ng Civil Service Commission to suppress information and not to give it to this committee?
We had a meeting ever since lumabas ho yung memorandum ng presidente, right away we had a virtual meeting and yes sir, may guidance po regarding yung concern niyo po.
When asked who gave them such directive, Lizada fearlessly dropped their chairperson. She said Chairperson Alicia Bala's statement was recorded and it was also in the minutes of their meeting. But Lizada said that this specific part was later removed in the minutes that made her refuse to sign the said document. Bala's representative, Assistant Commissioner Ariel Ronquillo, denied this.
The instruction of the chair was to ensure that this matter will be kept confidential from and not to be shared to the public, but will be shared if needed in any of the investigations being conducted concerning the PhilHealth. We just wanted to make sure that the matter will not go out of hand by sharing the same in public prematurely. That's why, in fact, we have prepared all these cases. The list of cases that are now in the hands of Commissioner Lizada came from my office. And the list of cases that we will submit to you, to the committee, Mr. Chair, also came from our office.
Lizada ended up with such revelation because lawmakers felt Ronquillo was withholding information about PhilHealth case when asked for details. But in an interview, Bala also dispelled the accusation. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
13 key officials of PhilHealth have been suspended by the Office of the Ombudsman as Task Force PhilHealth expedites investigations on pending cases. Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara says component agencies of the task force were asked to resolve past cases of PhilHealth officials that were filed before the investigating body was formed. Guevara also says the task force has zeroed in on so-called centers of fraud. Task Force PhilHealth says they will focus on its investigations on PhilHealth's information technology system and its legal sector. We'll pause for a short break, but when the big story returns, nearly 400,000 overseas Filipino workers have been displaced by the COVID-19 pandemic. That is according to data from the Labor Department. And in the middle of the health crisis, PBA officials are hinting at a comeback for the league, NBA style. Keep it here on One News for more big stories. Okay. This is the big story. I'm Robbie Alampay. The Valenzuela city government is utilizing technology in its fight against COVID-19. JC Cosico has the rest of the story.
The second floor of Valenzuela City Social Hall resembles the typical call center setup. But this space is not as seen in a BPO company. This is the city's so-called mega contact tracing center, which local government touts as high-tech. The 100-man team is composed of data encoders, contact tracers, and disease surveillance officers, all of whom are complementing the job of those who are doing contact tracing on the ground. The hub is in charge of answering queries, as well as making call to COVID-19 contacts with the aim of securing information on their exposure, including the number of household members. City residents who are experiencing symptoms can call their hotline number at 137160 for assessment.
Receive akong tawag, sabi niya, "Sir, nalilito kasi ako, natatakot ako paano ang gagawin ko dun sa resulta ko kasi it came out na ito ay positive po. Hindi ko po alam talaga kung paano po yung uumpisahan at saan po ko lalapit ng tulong."
Direct contacts of confirmed patients will also be contacted, after which a medical team will visit their houses for on-the-ground interview and testing. Should they test positive for the virus, they will be immediately isolated.
Kinakausap sila kung ano yung mga sintomas nila, kung ito ba i-related sa COVID o hindi. So ito muna yung ating ginagawa. Kapag may mga symptomatics na tumatawag sa atin, we refer them to our doctors for initial evaluation. Now, kung sa evaluation man ng doktor at ito ay related sa COVID, agad ito nga ini-schedule for swabbing.
The facility also uses a computer program which plots COVID-19 cases on a map to assess whether an area is under an outbreak or not. This helps the LGU in its decision-making for localized lockdowns.
Contact tracing is very important kasi you may have solved one problem by isolating the positive person, pero yung mga contacts niya can be positive and can keep on spreading. We have to end the chain of transmission, diba? That's the ultimate goal.
So far, the contact tracing hub has traced over 4,000 individuals, around 36% of which have undergone COVID-19 swab testing. On the national level, the DALG is set to hire about 50,000 contact tracers as soon as the 5 billion peso fund under the Bayanihan 2 is released. For News 5, JC Cosico, we are One News.
The number of COVID-19 cases in the country is inching towards the 200,000 mark. As of this afternoon, the Health Department is reporting there were almost 3,000 new COVID-19 cases, bringing the total to more than 197,000. Of this number, 61,700 are active cases. The death toll has meanwhile reached 3,038, with 34 new COVID-19 deaths reported today. Recoveries, on the other hand, is at almost 432,400, and 368 are fresh recoveries reported over the past 24 hours. Experts from the UP Octa research team say the country may see a flattening of the curve by September. However, Professor Guido David clarifies that the R0, or the COVID-19 reproduction, is simply slowing down, and flattening the curve does not mean the fight against the virus is over. Finance Secretary Sonny Dominguez also reported during the President's public address that a 41 billion peso wage subsidy was disbursed through SSS. The Small Business Wage Subsidy Program distributed 5,000 to 8,000 pesos to employees affected by the pandemic. Dominguez also proposed going digital for future cash subsidy programs in order to curb corruption. Nearly 400,000 overseas Filipino workers have been displaced by this pandemic. That's based on the Labor Department's own data. In a Senate hearing, lawmakers pushed for a bigger credit assistance to help OFWs that will be coming home. Senator Amy Marcos said OFW should be given a 100,000 peso loan to be able to start their own businesses. OWA Administrator Hans Katnak said they will look into the proposal. They're expecting around 200,000 OFWs to apply for the loan. And these are the other big stories today. The Asian Development Bank has approved a $125 million loan for the country's COVID-19 response. The multilateral lender said the funding will be dispersed to the Philippines under the Health System Enhancement to Address and Limit, or HEAL, COVID-19 project. The loan is payable within 29 years with a grace period of 8.5 years. An annual interest rate will also be charged. The Quezon City Police District is accusing former National Center for Mental Health Chief Admin Officer Clarita Avila of supposedly being the mastermind behind the killing of former NCMH Chief Roland Cortez. In a press briefing, the QCPD announced that they are also filing murder charges against 6 other suspects, among them NCMH employee Harley Pagarinan, who is the alleged gunman. The suspected motive behind the killing is Avila's fight against corruption in the center. Recall that Cortez and his driver were shot dead in Quezon City by then unknown assailants last month. And the Land Transportation Office has announced that it will start issuing driver's licenses that are valid for 10 years starting next year. Starting October 2021, drivers who do not have any traffic violations will enjoy these premium license cards. The LTO says it will also introduce a new point system as incentive for motorists to obey traffic rules. Under the point system, drivers will get corresponding demerit points based on the gravity of their violations. Video sharing app TikTok has formally sued U.S. President Donald Trump over his executive order banning transactions with them in the United States. The company has branded the move as a pretext to Trump's anti-China stance as he seeks re-election. The firm adds that there were political reasons behind Trump's decision, which they say is unconstitutional and violates rights to due process. TikTok and its parent company ByteDance also dismissed the White House position that the app poses a threat to the Americans' national security. The White House has yet to comment on the lawsuit. And are you missing the PBA? Well, officials say the league is looking to make a comeback. That's if COVID-19 protocols allow it and the financial aspects get sorted out. Lynn Olavarrio has details.
A return of the PBA season before the year ends, just like the NBA, don't count that one out just yet. The local professional league is now looking at several locations for a possible bubble when it resumes its games. During the Philippine Sports Writers Association Forum this Tuesday morning, PBA Chairman Ricky Vargas said they're considering venues such as the Smart Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City, the Inspire Sports Academy in Laguna, Clark, Pampanga, and Batangas for the bubble. Commissioner Willie Marshall will present their findings to the PBA board on Thursday.
Kung mapapapunta sa sinasabi ni Chairman na bubble, so ipe-present ko sa kanila lahat, ilalatag ko sa kanila, tapos tingnan namin ang pinakamagandang options.
The league will also look at the financial aspect of the proposal.
Ang isa pang problema dyan, more than just the site and the bubble option is yung financials. Kasi sa NBA, ang sumagot ng lahat niyan is the NBA, no? We will have to take a look at our own financials kung pwedeng sagutin ng PBA yan, or will it be shared with the team.
But Vargas reiterates they don't have a choice for now.
There is going to be pressure financially for the teams if this goes on for a longer period of time. But not only for the teams, but for the PBA itself. But more importantly, we don't want the PBA's popularity to lose out. I guess the bubble is the only way to start this sooner than later.
Several teams have already resumed daily practices today, subject to strict health protocols set by the government. The TNT Katropa, for one, is scheduled to travel to Laguna tomorrow for their 20-day training under a bubble setup. To ensure compliance, Marshall said the PBA will be doing surprise inspections and will penalize violators. Marshall said they will request that scrimmages be allowed.
May surprise inspection kami, may teams na kami na iikot, 2 teams yun. Tapos may video kami sa mga teams. Tapos may log pa kami sa mga players kung na pag nahuli sila, malaking fine ang aabutin nila.
Meanwhile, the PBA D-League will not yet be allowed to return following the joint administrative order of the DOH, GAB, and PSC on amateur leagues. The PBA will present both a full and shortened schedule of the PBA Philippine Cup to the board for their approval. Scheduling conflicts also need to be sorted out since PBA's broadcast partner TV5 can only air games 4 days a week. One Sports and PBA Rush, on the other hand, can cater to more frequent airings. Despite the current challenges, Vargas said the league has been able to keep itself afloat. But admittedly, he said a resumption of the games would be a boost.
We've been able to manage in the last 6 months without touching on the equity, no? And also without any revenues. Once we start, let's say in October, or we're ready to start a game even without audience, no? Papasok na yung TV revenues. Pag pumasok yon, that's a big breather for us.
For News 5, Lynn Olivario, We Are One News.
And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow, 8 p.m. Signal channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.